This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this will be like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? If you could leave a rating and even a brief written review, it will enable other excellent people just like you to be able to locate this podcast. Thanks, and be sure and spread the word around. I want to talk today about maybe some productivity hacks or actions that you haven't thought about, including some of them that I'll give today that I've heard from others that I'm not sure it would help me. A couple of them I tried and they did, and a couple that I tried they really didn't. So it does involve, my friends, some experimentation. What do you need to do to maintain focus, to get things done, and to get off of your mind and off of your back the things that need to be done, as well as working on the goals that are important to you, your business, your family, your faith. Let's talk about some of the things you need to do. One of the things that's maybe going to surprise you that I'm going to say right at the top is, are you making sure that you take a break? One of the great things about the Pomodoro technique of using a timer is the fact that the one that I use has a built-in 5, and you can adjust it longer. Sometimes if it's a really heavy-duty project I'm working on, I will make it a 10-minute break at which I can use the restroom, I can stretch, I can walk around, I can get a cup of coffee, I can return an email, I can speak to someone, return a call, just sort of relax for a moment, look and see what other things I may need to do. So you can't just put your nose to the grindstone and keep it there hour after hour. That's impossible. That's not the way you can work optimally. Work and focus and work while you're working. Then take a break. This is why it's great to take a day off. It's why it's great to take vacations. It's great to take an hour or so periodically and read or do some activity that you really enjoy. But you'll notice that you become much more productive as you take a break and give your mind and your spirit some rest. One that I'm a big believer in is don't multitask. I bought into the idea as a young adult that I could be really effective and that I could just do multiple things at one time. I've given you illustrations that the people who say that's what they are doing are really dividing up their attention span and really wasting time. Things could be done much more effectively and really a whole lot more efficiently if you focused on the matter at hand, got it done, took a break, moved to the next, so on, rinse and repeat until you get everything done. Now, some of this can help you and some of this won't, but I hope that you're one of the people, unfortunately we are in a minority, who love what they're doing. But do not be discouraged, because even if you don't love what you're doing, you may not be in a position to stop doing that, start doing something else, quit your job. I get all of that. But at least love what you're doing in that, I tell you, if you gamify your life and say, here are the 4 or 5 things I must get done today, let me make a game of it to make sure I get them done. It'll distract you even if the things that you're doing aren't overly pleasant or don't really strike your fancy. It will still be important because you're getting them done. Another thing that I'm a big believer in is you have to eliminate distractions. There are certain kinds of work I do that I have created different spaces in my life where I can do that. There was even a time pre-pandemic when I would go to a public library when I needed 2 or 3 hours to really be kind of away from my home base, as it were, where I could really do long form, really heavy duty thinking. There are certain places where I read in my house. There are certain places where I write. There are certain places where I place my laptop when I'm working on certain things. I have a particular place where I record these podcasts. And what I do is I eliminate all the other distractions that are there, because if your desk is heaped up with stuff to do while you're working on something else, inevitably your eye will catch that item and you'll want to work on it and you'll break your train of thought. And then that becomes the opposite of productive. You become extremely unproductive. So one of the greatest things maybe you could do today is just to clean off your desk, clean your office, clean the space where you're working, and to make it as distraction free as you can. That is a wonderful productivity habit to establish. Now, the next one is not something I ascribe to. I have tried it and it doesn't work for me very well. But there are some people who just a change of scenery will help. And if you're in a part of the world where it is warm, or you're living in a part of the world where you're in a warm season, there are oftentimes people who will set up a folding table and they'll go out on their deck or their patio and work, or they'll go to a coffee shop and sit outside. I have found that I can maybe work on one or two tasks in that environment. But just being outside, because I love the outdoors, I love the sun, and I love the warmth, and it's too easy for me. I'm just giving a confession for me to daydream, but I know a few people who find that they are more productive when they're outside breathing fresh air, they're at a park, they're in their own backyard, like I said, at a cafe somewhere outdoors. It really involves the best way for you to be productive is not listening to what I say or what a book tells you to do. You're going to have to experiment. The great thing about experiments is some succeed and some don't. And so I have tried many things to see if they really were going to work for me. And you know what? They really didn't work for me. Because you have to get down to, you can't just spend too much time thinking about what you're going to do. If you keep doing that, you'll never get anything done. You have to find the way that optimally helps you to get things done. And then one of the other things that I have noticed is you need to be continually learning, seeking knowledge. And right now, you and I live in one of the most wonderful times in human history. There are books, there are the internet, there are articles. You can go through search engines and find just about any kind of information. Even someone who's not overly mechanically inclined like myself can find YouTube videos, how-tos to do about any kind of a simple handyman's job around the house. And you can find YouTube videos to do things that are extremely complex and complicated. So this idea that we don't know how, we need to be continually seeking knowledge, growing in whatever it is you want to know about, but especially for the things that will help you to be effective as a human, as a parent, as a mate, as a friend, as an employee, as an employer, as a business person, as a Christian, as a neighbor and a citizen. Keep learning. Another thing is, someone needs to tell you today, not everything you do is going to work out well. There are going to be some times when things just flat out do not go the way that you intended them. And if you're not careful, you can say that it failed. The road to success is marked by many false starts and many failures. Many times we thought we were headed down the right road only to end up in the ditch. John Maxwell wrote a book that's very important called Failing Forward. We're all going to fail. Everything is not going to work. Everything isn't going to go as planned or the details told us that it would. But if you're going to fall and if you're going to fail, fall forward. At least you're moving in the right direction. Oftentimes, I have discovered that the most valuable lessons that I have learned have been in the hard places, the hard times that at the moment seemed like an indescribable failure, a setback that I might not ever recover from. And yet, out of that came some great lessons, some great learning opportunities, some stretching and growing and trusting opportunities that would never have presented themselves to me, if everything had gone just as I planned. So maybe you've just feel a little bruised today because something you have attempted has not worked and you feel like a failure. A failure is an event or a situation. It's not you. And if you keep going, you haven't really failed. You turned it into a learning laboratory. You have often heard me say that the shortest pencil is better than the longest memory. One of the things that you must do if you're going to be effective and productive is you need to write things down. When someone tells you something, write it down. I've gotten to the point in these years when someone asks me to do something and it's very simple, I do it right then. I do it so that I don't trust myself to remember it's 5, 6 hours or 4 or 5 days from then. But needless to say, write it down. One of the things that I have found, if you take notes when you're visiting with a person, it really isn't a distraction. It really doesn't insult them. As a matter of fact, it's a compliment to them that you believe they're going to say something that's worthy of writing it down. Now, the problem then with writing it down is you need to come up with a filing system. And as you know, most filing systems are not very good because in essence, we're not trying to file things. We're trying to put them in a place where we'll be able to retrieve them when we need it. And so therefore, think of your filing system really as a retrieval system. I think one of the greatest productivity actions that you and I can take on any given day is to do the first thing first, to do the most important task, even at times the most difficult, the most draining, the one that we've been avoiding, the one that we're not looking forward to, but we know is essential and must be done. For me, I have discovered that if I get that done in the morning, get it out of the way before my day gets going, it just gives me a sense of accomplishment and makes the rest of the day much, much easier. One of the greatest ones is to complete that task. Make sure that you break down every project, everything that you're trying to do into small, actionable steps. This is why most to-do lists and task lists do not work, because people don't just put tasks and actions on it, they put entire projects. And when you've worked yourself to that particular item, you become paralyzed, for you don't really know, you aren't really sure what indeed is the next action that I need to take. In the midst of all of this, one of the most productive things, as I've talked about taking a break, is to keep your life balanced. Work is not your entire life. You are a physical, a spiritual, and intellectual being. You need relationship. Make sure that you're caring for your family, your spirit, your physical body. There are some wonderful apps that have certain kinds of music that help people to be productive. This one is not overly helpful to me, but I know so many who swear by it. But I have found at times that having earbuds or a headphone that cancels noise when I'm working to be very, very helpful. One of the other things that will really help you is to batch certain things together. There are 3 or 4 things that take about the same amount of energy and just a few moments. I batch them together on my calendar and I plan on doing them and executing them all at the same time. I think another productivity boost for you would be when you really bring a project in that you have been working on and that it's taken a lot of effort and a lot of energy, probably a lot of collaboration with a lot of folks. Go ahead and reward yourself for the task. I have a big project that I'm working on right now. And so my incentive is there is certain something that I wanted to get, and I'm not going to get it until I finish that task. The final thing that I would want to say to you that I think would be a great productivity hack is, have you ever done an audit on your life just to see what are the times when you're most productive? I know for certain, without a shadow of a doubt, for me, it's early in the morning. And the morning hours are when I'm most productive. It doesn't mean that I don't have to still work on things in the afternoon and every once in a while even in the evening. But what I've decided is those things that are tough, those things that are important, those things that are essential, I need to do when I'm having optimal energy. Now, today you may not know what you're supposed to be doing, but when you're in doubt, just do the next thing. Get started. Work on the solutions as you go. You know, it's not knowing what to do. That's only half of the question. It's probably 20%. The major part is just getting in there and doing what needs to be done. Remember, work is why we are where we are. I love what Thomas Sowell said, that the least productive people are usually the ones most in favor of holding meetings. I think we have a plethora of meetings in our world because no one knows what they really should be doing. And if we get together and have a gab fest and call it a meeting, we will somehow be able to feel like we can at least justify ourselves in the eyes of our employer that we have done something productive. The most productive thing you can do today is get started, do something one at a time, and keep moving. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this has been like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? Leave a rating and a brief written review. Remember, my leadership friend, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.